pacman.pt.vu.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. I want to start with some economic headlines today, and by the bottom of the hour, you will know why they are more critical than what they seem. America Tonight is a show that you want to DVR and you want to share with friends. You do not want to miss a second of today's episode, especially the ending. Here are some of the headlines. Why the stock rally can't last if the dollar keeps burning. American students are flunking science, and it is forcing employers to look abroad. Here's what Tea Party isolationism will do to the economy. How the high-speed yuan revaluation could force China into a crash. For the first time in 70 years, New Yorkers lost income in 2009. Fitch just downgraded Ireland and set its outlook to negative. Trade war to go DEFCON 4 as U.S. pushes for IMF involvement in dispute with China. Well, that's a good one. A sobering look at the structure of the U.S. Treasury debt. All of these stories, this is one day. This is this morning behind my desk. I'm reading the Business Insider. You just look at that chart at the Business Insider, you understand that chart, and you will understand what we're up against. So we need a solution. Well, what is the solution? To devalue our currency. If you thought that $5 a gallon gasoline would have been bad a couple of summers ago, here's another headline. Quote, Main Street will figure out policy of inflation when gas hits $5 a gallon. Why? Why would it hit $5 a gallon again? Because progressives are doing what they always do. They try to equal everything out, and they're running up debt. The best way to pay off the debt is their latest idea, to simply value all the world's currencies equally. One world currency, but by a different name, so nobody freaks out. Bernanke said he will never monetize the debt. We showed his testimony to Congress under oath. Then, months later, we showed you how they were doing that through a third party. Well, now they are announcing and saying that inflation is their strategy to get out of debt. That's bad for the Chinese, but I think it's much, much worse for you, because we are lambs being led to the slaughter. Now, what would be the motivation of anyone doing that? Who in their right mind would want all of this? Well, that's a great question. It's not a secret. It's a different mindset. The wolf is now shedding its sheep's clothing. Tonight, I'm going to show you the monsters who will tell you with a straight face and mean it that they're not monsters, they're only doing what's best. The monsters behind the progressive mask and the nightmare ideas that are coming from them. Come on. Hello, America. I want to talk to you tonight, and again, I want to lead with this. Do not ever, please, ever take my word for anything. You do your own homework. You look it up. I wouldn't have believed these things 3 years ago. When I found them 3 years ago, I thought this book must be crazy, or this historian is nuts. No, it is all there. Just nobody ever pieces it all together, because the progressives control our history in our schools. But all the documentation in their own handwriting, in their own words, you'll see some of it tonight, it's all there. In the next hour, you're going to hear some, quite honestly, horrifying comments and beliefs. So incomprehensible, I think, to the average American, and so graphic, and so far below the lowest standards of humanity that you might think that I'm reading from a Stephen King novel. But these are real people expressing their real beliefs, and they are not monsters. They are not evil. It's what they believe, and they really, truly believe they're being compassionate and doing the right thing. Tomorrow I'll explain a little bit more about that, because we have to get to the mindset. But today we're going to find out, what do they say, and how did they get here? I warn you, some of the clips you're going to see tonight are graphic and disturbing. I want to start with a clip that we showed you a couple of nights ago. Journalist, columnist, and author Virginia Ironside. She was on the BBC this last Sunday, and she made this stunning declaration on the BBC.
If I were a mother of a suffering child, I would be the first to want, I mean a deeply suffering child, I would be the first to want to put a pillow over its face.
Dr. Peter Evans
as I would with any suffering thing. And I think the difference is that my feeling of horror, suffering, is much greater than my feeling of getting rid of a couple of cells, because suffering can go on for years.
I'm sorry, I was just about to introduce another guest there, but that's a pretty horrifying thing to say, that you would put a pillow over.
Of course I would, if it was a child I really loved who is in agony. I think any good mother would.
This is horrifying on so many levels. The way she casually describes suffocating an infant is something any loving mother would do. She's not a monster, she's not evil, she is doing what any loving mother would do. Of course she would smother her child. Also the way she refers to a baby as a couple of cells. Perhaps most shocking of all is the fact that she doesn't even realize that what she's saying is that controversial. I am a father of a child of special needs. My daughter has taught me more about life and God, I think, than any other one person, and she's done it without ever trying to. She's taught me more about myself. She's taught me more about compassion. My daughter is, she has cerebral palsy, if you met her, and you most likely wouldn't know. She's brilliant. But it's been a struggle. And I can't imagine a world without her. I'm convinced when I see people that have been labeled retarded by our society, that when all is said and done and we get to the other side, we'll find out who the retarded ones are. It will be us. Our priorities are wrong. And I don't think God will put a pillow over our face and smother us. We'll learn. All right. So here's a mother saying that, of course, all good loving mothers would smother their children. If they were in pain, it's out of compassion. Now, let me switch gears slightly. This is another clip from England. We'll get to America in a second. This one is from the environmentalist who believe that if we don't act within 4 years, there is no reversing climate change. So they want to warn you. Well, they've already tried to warn you about this, but now they need to kick it up a notch, because a nudge isn't enough. Now maybe a slap across the face. What you're about to see is very graphic.
We're thinking of using our car less. I'm going to cycle to school.
That's fantastic, Jemima.
Take it full, please.
No pressure at all, but it'd be great to get a sense of how many of you might do this. Just a rough percentage.
That's fantastic.
And those not? Philip and Tracy. That's fine, that's absolutely fine. Your own choice. Okay, class, thank you so much for today, and I will see you all tomorrow. Oh, just before you go, I just need to press this little button here. Now, everybody, please remember to read chapters 5 and 6 on volcanoes and glaciation.
Okay, so remember, they believe in Solinsky, the ends justify the means. They thought this was okay. Nobody said this would be a bad idea until it hit the air. And then when people freaked out, then they said first it was a joke. It's not a joke. They have now come out and said, look, there's only 4 years left to act. We had to wake people up. Okay, well, what if there's only 1 year left to act, or a month, or 10 days, or we're a year behind? What do we do? If you literally believe the world is doomed unless we act, and you've devalued humankind, what is drastic to you? I mean, we've already seen the environmentalists. They've already destroyed careers. They want to ban people from getting a meteorology license unless you agree with them. Anybody in business who speaks up against them, they are deniers, they're destroyed, they're discredited. You know, you're a Holocaust denier. Well, when those nudges don't work, what is next? Hey, I know. How about if they send skeptics to court? Could you do that? How about imprison people who deny global warming? Would you execute them? I know you wouldn't do it with a little button. You couldn't, but it sounds implausible, doesn't it? Sounds ridiculous? Let me show you something from theblaze.com. Here's a story that is on there today. They have begun gathering a list of all those ridiculous, implausible ideas that have been said by environmentalists recently. Remember, the ends justify the means. They're saving the planet. In June of last year, liberal blog site TPM posted an article and then quickly had to take it down when people started to protest that read, quote, "At what point do we jail or execute global warming deniers?" In 2006, the eco magazine Grist called for Nuremberg-style trials for skeptics. In 2008, The Guardian reported that NASA's James Hansen called for the trials of climate skeptics for high crimes against humanity. That's a NASA official. In 2008, Canadian environmentalist David Suzuki called for government leaders skeptical of global warming to be thrown into jail. In 2007, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said of skeptics, "This is treason. We need to start treating them as traitors." Well, there's more, including the environmentalist that said, "Soon another generation will come and strangle you in your beds." Find it at theblaze.com. We have trials, we have prison, we have treason, we have execution. Oh, and then we have that joke on TV that basically shows that. Oh, and then another person talking about smothering their own baby or a couple of cells with a pillow because it is the loving and right thing to do. These are not lone, isolated incidents of raving lunatics. I'll show you in a few minutes an ad that is running here in New York that will boggle your mind. It would be horrible if these twisted ideas came from the mind of raving lunatics, but they're not. They're very rational people who just believe in things that are different than you. Where do these ideas come from? Well, you can find them all from the same place. Progressivism here in America, Marxism overseas, and Fabian socialism in Australia, New Zealand, England, and Europe. They're all the same thing. They're all the same stock of people. I've talked to you a lot about progressives and Marxists, but Fabian socialists, look them up. You will be astounded what you find. It's all the same pool of people. The Fabian Socialists was a society that was founded in January of 1884. The members sought to influence public opinion on socialism. But what made them unique was, at the time, if you wanted to be a socialist, you needed a mass revolution. Well, they preferred the selective education. Selective education, you see it here beginning under the Woodrow Wilson administration. It was the education of the powerful few, especially those in government and the media, who could lead reforms in government. It is why our media is so screwed up, and they all think alike. Their strategy is called the doctrine of inevitability of gradualism. What does that mean? The doctrine of inevitability of gradualism. Let's say you say to your wife, "Hey, honey, I want to rebuild an engine in the living room." She's not going to do that. She's going to say, what is wrong with you? But if you believe that that is what needs to be done, you want to be able to watch the football game while rebuilding your engine of your car, and you want to do it in your comfy lazy boy, what do? Well, you can do one thing. You can drag the engine into the center of the living room, and then she goes nuts. Or you can just bring a spark plug in and just leave it on the table till she stops noticing it. Then bring another one in, and then another one, and then another part, and then another part. And the carburetor. Pretty soon, you got the whole damn engine sitting in there. She'll tell you at first, "Can you stop? Can you stop with them? Can you take these away? You just leave them there." She'll forget eventually, and she won't notice that you have all of the parts of the engine that you're going to build there in the living room. It becomes inevitable because you can say, "It's already here.